Vampireacademy, Chapter 13. The aftermath of Jess and Ralph's lies was about as horrible as I expected. The only way I survived was by putting the blinders on, by ignoring everyone and everything. It kept me sane badly, but I hated it. I felt like crying all the time. I lost my appetite and don't sleep well. Yet, no matter how bad it got for me, I don't worry about myself as much as I did Lisa. She stood by her promise to change things. It was slow at first, but gradually I could see a royal or two more come up to her at lunch or in class and say hello. She could turn on a brilliant smile, laughing and talking to them like they were all best friends. At first, I don't understand how she was pulling it off. She have told me she could use compulsion to win the other royals over and turn them against Mia. But I don't see it happening. It was possible, of course, that she was winning people over without compulsion. After all, she was funny, smart, and nice. Anyone could like her. Something told me she was not winning friends the old fashioned way, and I finally figured it out. She was using compulsion when I was not around. I only saw her for a small part of the day, and since she knew I don't approve, she only worked her power when I was away. After a few days of this secret compulsion, I know what I needed to do. I had to get back in her head again by choice. I could do it before, I could do it again. At least that is what I told myself sitting and spacing out in Santa's class one day, but it was not as easy as I thought it could be, partly because I felt too keyed up to relax and open myself to her thoughts. I also had trouble because I picked a time when she felt relatively calm. She came through the loudest when her emotions were running strong. Still, I tried to do what I could done before, back when I spied on her and Christian, the meditation thing. Slow breathing, eyes closed, mental focus like that still was not easy for me, but at long last I managed the transaction, slipping into her head and experiencing the world as hers. She stood in her American literature class during project work time, but like most of the students, she was not working. She and Camelia Contona leaned against a wall on the far side of the room, talking in hushed voices. It's gross, said Kamala firmly, a frown crossing her pretty face. She had on a blue skirt made of a velvet silver fabric, short enough to show off her long legs and possibly raise eyes about the dress code. If you guys were doing it, I'm not surprised. She got addicted and did it with Jess. She don't do it with Jess, insisted Lisa, and it is not like we had sex. We just don't have any feeders, that's all. Lisa focused on her full attention on Kamala and smiled. It is no big deal. Everyone is overreacting. Kamala looked like she seriously doubted this, and then the more she stared at Lisa, the more unfocused her eyes became. A blank look fell over her. Right? Asked Lisa, voice like silk. It is not a big deal. The front returned. Kamala tried to shake the compulsion. The fact that it don't even gotten this far was incredible. As Christian had observed, using it on Moray was unheard of. Kamala, although strong-willed, lost the battle. Yeah, she said slowly. It is really not that big a deal. And Jess is lying. She nodded, definitely lying. A mental strain burned inside of Jess as she held onto the compulsion. It took a lot of effort. She was not affected. What are you guys doing tonight? Clary and I are going to study for Mathon's test in her room. Invite me. Camelia thought about it. Hey, you want to study with us? Sure, said Lisa, smiling at her. Kamala smiled back. Kamala dropped the compulsion and a wave of dizziness swept over her. She felt weak. Kamala glanced around, momentarily surprised, then shocked of the weirdness. See you after dinner. See you, murmured Lisa, watching her walk away. When Kamala was gone, Lisa reached up to tie her hair up in ponytail. Her fingers could not quite get all the hair through, and suddenly another pair of hands caught hold and helped her. She spun around and found herself staring into Christian's blue eyes. She jerked away from him. Don't do that, she explained, shivering at the realization that it had been his fingers touching her. He gave her his lazy, slightly twisted smile and brushed a few pieces of unruly black hair out of his place. Or are you asking me or ordering me? Shut up. She glanced around both to avoid his eyes and make sure no one saw them together. What is the matter? Worried about what your slaves will think if they see you talking to me? You're my friends, she retorted. Oh, right, of course they are. I mean, from what I saw, Kamala could probably do anything for you, right? Friends till the end. He crossed his arms over his chest, and in spite of her anger, she could not help but notice how silvery grey of his shirt set off his black hair and blue eyes. At least she is not like you. She does not pretend to be my friend one day and then ignore me for no reason. An uncertain look flicked across his features. Tension and anger had built up between them in last week. Ever since I could yield at Christian after the royal reception, believing what I had told him, Christian had stopped talking to her and had treated her rudely every time she could try to start a conversation. Now, hurt and confused, she could given up attempts at being nice. The situation just kept getting worse and worse. Looking out through Lisa's eyes, I could see that he still cared about her and still wanted her. His pride had been hurt, however, and he was not about to show weakness. Yeah, he said in low voice, cruel voice. I thought that was the way all royals were supposed to act. You certainly seems to doing a good job at it. Or maybe you're just using compulsion on me to make me think you're two-faced bitch. Maybe you really are not, but I doubt it. Lisa flashed at the word compulsion and cast another worried look around, but decided not to give him the satisfaction of arguing anymore. She simply gave him one last glare before stomping off to join the group of royals huddled over an assignment. Returning to myself, I started blankly around the classroom, processing what I could see. Some tinny part of me was starting to feel sorry for Christian. It was only a tiny part though, and very easy to ignore. At the beginning of the next day, I headed out to meet Dremet. These practices were my favorite part of the day now, practically because of my stupid crush on him, and partially because I don't have to be around others. He and I started with running as usual, and he ran with me, quiet and almost gentle in his instructions, probably worried about causing some sort of breakdown. He knew about the rumors somehow, but he never mentioned them. When we finished, he led me through an offensive exercise when I could use any makeshift weapons I could find to attack him. To my surprise, I managed to land a few blows on him, although they seems to be do me more damages than him. The impacts always made me stagger back, but he never budged. I still don't stop it still don't stop me from attacking and attacking, fighting with an almost blind rage. I don't know who I really fought in those moments, Mia or Jess or Rolf, maybe all of them. Dremet finally called a break. We carried the equipment we could use on the field and returned everything to the supply room. While putting it away, he glanced at me and did a double take. Your hands, he swore in Russian. I could recognize it by now, but he refused to teach me what any of it meant. Where are your gloves? I looked down at my hands. They are suffered for weeks, and today had only made them worse. The cold had turned the skin raw and chapped, and some parts were actually bleeding a little. My blisters swelled. Don't have any. Never needed them in Portland. He swore again and beckoned me to chair while he retrieved a first aid kit, wiping away the blood with a wet cloth. He told me a gruffy, we will get you some more. I looked down at my destroyed hands as he worked. This is only the start, is not it? Of what? Me turning into Albetra, her and other female guardians? They are all lethal, leather and stiff, fighting and training and always being outdoors. They are not pretty anymore. I passed this life. It destroys them. They are he hesitated for a moment and looked up from my hands. Those warm brown eyes surveyed me and something tightening in my chest. Damn it, I had to stop the feeling this way around him. It won't happen to you. You're too, he groped for the right word, and I mentally substitute all sorts of possibilities. Godness like, scorching sexy, giving up. He simply said, it won't happen to you. He turned his attention back to my hands. Did he really think I was pretty? I never doubted the reaction I caused among guys my own age. But with him, I don't know. The titan in my chest increased. It happened to my mom. She used to be beautiful. I guess she still is, sort of, but not the way she used to be. Bitterly, I added. Have not seen her in a while. She could look completely different, for all I know. You don't look like your mother, he observed. You noticed that, huh? You barely know her. That is the point. She abandoned me. She left me to be raised by the academic. When he finished clearing my open wounds, he found a jar of slave and began rubbing it into the rough parts of my skin. I sort of got lost in the feel of his hands massaging mine. You say that, but what else should she have done? I know you want to be a guardian. I know how much it means to you. Do you think she feels any differently? Do you think she should have quit to raise you when you could spend most of your life here anyway? I don't like having reasonable arguments thrown at me. Are you saying I am hypocrite? I'm just saying maybe you should not be so hard on her. She is very respected vampire woman. She set you on the path to be the same. It could not kill her to visit more, I muttered. But I guess you're right. A little. It could have been worse, I suppose. I could have been raised with bloodhorse. Tremont looked up. I was raised in a vampire community. They are not as bad as you think. Oh, I suddenly felt stupid. I don't mean it's alright. He focused his attention back on my hands. So, did you have family there? Grow up with them? He nodded. My mother and two sisters. I don't see them much after I went to school, but we still kept in touch. Mostly the communities are about family. There are lots of love there no matter what stories you have heard. My bitterness returned and I glanced down to hide my glare. Drummond had had a happier family life with his disgraced mother and relatives that I could had been with my respected guardian mother. He most certainly know his mother better than I know mine. Yeah, but is not it weird? Or not there a lot of more women visiting to, you know? His hands wrapped circles into mine sometimes. There was something dangerous in his tone, something that told me this was an unwelcome topic. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring up something bad. Actually, you should probably own think it is bad, he said after almost a minute has passed. A tight smile formed in his lips. You don't know your father, do you? I shook my head. No, all I know is he must be have a wicked cool hair. Drummond glanced up and his eyes swept me. Yes, he must have. Returning to my hands, he said carefully, I know mine. I froze. Really? Most Morai guys don't stay. I mean, some do. But usually they just, well, he liked my mother. He don't say liked in a nice way. And he visited her a lot. He is my sister's father too, but when he came, well, he don't treat my mother very well. He did some horrible things. Like, I insisted, this Remit's mother we were talking about, I don't know how far I could go. Bloodhood things? Like beating her up kinds of things? He replied flatly. He finished the bandage but was still holding my hands. I don't even know if he noticed. I certainly did. His were warm and large with long, ungraceful fingers that might have played the piano in another life. Oh God, I said, how horrible. I tightened my hands in his. He squeezed back. That is horrible. And she just let it happen? She did. The corner of his mouth turned at a sad smile, but I don't. The excitement surged through me. Tell me, you bet the crap out of him. His smile grew. I did. Wow. I had not thought Drummond could be any cooler, but I was wrong. You beat up your dad. I mean, that is really horrible. What happened? But wow, you're really a god. He blinked. What? Nothing. Hesitantly, I tried to change the subject. How old were you? He still seems to be puzzling at the god comment. 13? Wow, definitely a god. You beat up your dad when you were 13? It was not that hard. I was stronger than he was, almost as tall. I could not let him keep doing that. He had to learn that being royal and Morai does not mean you can do anything you want to other people, even bloodhounds. I started. I could not believe he just said that about his mother. I'm sorry, that's alright. Pieces clicked into place for me. That's why you got so upset about Jess, is not it? He was another royal trying to take advantage of a vampire girl. Drimmitz averted his eyes. I got upset over that for a lot of reason. After all, you are breaking the rules and he don't finish, but he looked back into my eyes in a way that made warmth build between us. Thinking about Jess soon darkened my mood. Unfortunately, I looked down. I know you heard what people are saying that I know it is not true, he interrupted. He immediately certain and surprised me, and I stupidly found myself questioning. Yeah, but how do you? Because I know you, he replied firmly. I know your character. I know you're going to be a great guardian. His confidence made them warm, feeling written. I'm glad someone does. Everyone else thinks I'm totally irresponsible. With the way you worry more about Lisa than yourself, he shook his head. No, you understand your responsibilities better than guardians twice your age. You will do what you have to do to succeed. I thought about that. I don't know if I can do everything I had to do. He did that cool one eyebrow thing. I don't want to cut my hair, I explained. He looked puzzled. You don't have to cut your hair. It's not required. All other guardians women do. They show off their tattoos. Unexpectedly, he released my hand and leaned forward. Slowly, he reached out and held a lock of my hair, twisting it around one finger thoughtfully. I froze for a moment. There was nothing going on in the world except him touching my hair. He let my hair go, looking a little surprised and embarrassed at what he had done. Don't cut it, he said gruffly. Somehow I remembered how to talk again, but no one will see my tattoo if I don't. He moved towards the door, a small smile playing over his lips. Wear it up.